Our next speaker, you know you're dealing with science, people from the scientific community, when there's a lot of abbreviations. So I will try to, I really need my paper here, because we're going to have the pleasure of hearing from Giulia Gaudenzi. And she's a scientific expert at the, hold your horses now, European Center for Disease Prevention and Control, ECDPC. She's doing her PhD studies at Karolinska Institutet, KI, and she's working with NGO, non-governmental organizations, with evidence-based medical programs in East Africa. So a big hands for Giulia.
Okay. Thank you, Emma, for your kind introduction. So I will start by showing you a video. Not this one. This one. The video ends with a question. Are you part of the change that you want to see? The same question I asked myself when I was in the middle of my PhD study at Karolinska. I really didn't feel I was part of the change I wanted. At the same time, I was seeing the startup world that was moving forward, where innovation was happening. And as a life scientist working with health sciences, I felt I wasn't really part of it, or a little bit behind. And life science is hard. We need to produce data, analyze those data. We need our experiments to be reproducible. Reproducibility is so key in science. And also we do field research. So for us, it's not so fast. Innovation doesn't happen from a day to another. Also, the values I carry with me as a life scientist maybe are not always the same as in the startup world. I honestly don't care if there is another Uber-like app, if we can still cure cancer. And when I was approached a few years ago to join a program at the Stockholm School of Entrepreneurship, I didn't really feel I was part of it, or I could contribute with my knowledge. But it was very clear, as soon as I met the other fellows in the program, that science and me as a person, we could really bring in something to that table. And by the way, the fellows in the program are here today, so I'm really happy they came and see me. At the beginning of that journey, and after 1 year of work together, life science and science itself became a clear lead in the work we did. By the end of the program, I changed my mind. I saw how much, as a scientist, working together with designers, with people from the business world, and public health experts, we could really make a difference in the world of social entrepreneurship. Then I moved on. I went back to my study at Karolinska, my PhD. So I joined a small but growing NGO, or social entrepreneurship startup, called SOG, the Swedish Organization for Global Health. SOG has a very clear mission. We work for closing the gap for health inequities in the world. One of our flagship programs is in rural Uganda. So you have to imagine in rural Uganda, to reach a hospital is hours away from villages where some of this community live. Not only they are far away by road, most of those roads are not paved. So when the rainy season comes, roads are difficult, most of the time are closed. And for a mother-to-be, for a pregnant woman, reaching the hospital is key. Because if they deliver at home, the chances that there is some complication or something goes wrong with the delivery are very high. So one of the highest causes of maternal mortality in Uganda is delivering at home. So SOG took evidence from public health research and local anthropological work done in the area to set up a program, a very simple public health intervention that could help mothers to understand the importance of delivering at the health center. So how do we do that? We have community health worker that you see here in the picture going home to those mothers and talk to them about the importance of meeting a midwife and going for antenatal care visit. Those visits are not just about pregnancy, are also about family planning, about reproductive sexual health and rights, and also about how do we fight preventable diseases such as malaria, which is very common in the area. Also, to incentive the women to visit the healthcare centers and meeting a midwife, we set up a program so that at the fourth antenatal visit, they receive a very simple kit called the Mama Kit. The Mama Kit contains very cheap tools. The whole cost of the kit is only 35 kroner, but they contain a razor blade, gloves, and soap. And just with this simple tool, you can really see a difference and an improvement to fight the infection that cause maternal mortality. Also, the community health workers' role, it's key in getting together the community. So we don't just involve mothers, we involve the entire community, we involve the husband. And this is very important for reaching that closing in the healthcare gap. The results after a few years of intervention in rural Uganda were really stunning. We got about 200% increase in the antenatal visits for mothers. This is the health center in Mina. And this really gave us a very good hint that we could move forward and continue the program in the neighboring villages. And I want to emphasize that the program is run by locals, for the locals, with kits produced locally. And for us, this is extremely important from an entrepreneurship point of view. Finally, I want to emphasize again how important it is to work together across discipline, because us as a public health professional, without the help of, designers, business people, we wouldn't have reached this goal. And this is not just me saying that, but also one of the most important organizations working for global health and achieving global health equity, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is really backing up this. We really need to work together for social entrepreneurship challenges, for global challenges. And finally, I want to thank very much the opportunity I got at the Stockholm School of Entrepreneurship, my fellow program members and my teacher who are here today, because they really changed my mindset. And those tools and skills I got have really helped me to grow, but also have helped me to contribute to this. And finally, a big thanks to SOG, to all the members that are really global. They do amazing work every day. So thank you, and I hope I can take any questions.
Thank you, Giulia. Do we have any questions? Any questions? I have a question. What to you is the biggest advantage? You're talking about the cross-disciplinary work of involving designers and business people. From your perspective, coming from the scientific background, what is the biggest advantage of working in this way, and what do you learn as a scientist?
Well, first of all, I mean, we are experts in our field, but sometimes we don't know how to package those experience. We don't know, for instance, that we could execute the same idea in a different way, or that we need to think a little bit different, or we can convey the same message in a different way. So I learned a lot from other disciplines. And also, I mean, now I just talk about one part of the project, one small part, but we want to make in the same village a way for mother to also generate income. And this we wouldn't be able to do without people from the business world or from the design world, and maybe have a different way. We are medical professionals and experts, so, but we share the same value. So I think that's very important.
Do you think, now I'm going to go on a bit of a limb here, I mean, SSES is providing a cross-disciplinary arena for cross-disciplinary people to come together.
Yeah.
But how do you think it could be different if actually the academic locations themselves were more diverse? Because KI is very much, well, Karolinska and medicine, and KTH, for instance, is very much focused on engineering.
Well, but people are also changing. I think there is, of course, we need to be expert in our field. You need to train expert, and we need to train people to think that way. But at the same time, you need also to train people to be flexible, to talk, because innovation doesn't happen in a silos. And I found a lot of brilliant people at Karolinska that have then joined also some SSCS courses. And I mean, SSCS for me was that platform. Like, I couldn't get trained in human-centered design at Karolinska. I came to SSCS to learn those skills. Nobody taught me how to prototype, but I knew from my scientific world how to troubleshoot, how to the project management I got from my daily work as a scientist, but a different way of thinking than I got it at SSCS. So, but also, and one other thing very much I learned at SSCS was the peer-to-peer learning. Like, I mean, we didn't have a teacher. Well, we had Ronald Jones, sorry, he was a great teacher. But he was a facilitator. It was just, we learned from each other most of it. Sorry, Ron, are you in the audience? It's gone, okay.
He promised he would storm out,
okay.
you remember? I think he did that now.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the audience? Otherwise, as you know, Mohammed is apparently stuck somewhere abroad, so thoughts to him wherever he is. This concludes the life science track. Thank you so much for coming. This was the first time SSCS hosted a life science track, and I hope it's not the last. Thank you for being here.